Enrolling in the Academy is really simple. You'll just go to our website, wblinc.org/academy. And when you get here, you'll see our main page and you can click enroll and it'll take you to this form where you're just gonna fill this out. It'll take you about 5 minutes. Once you submit this, you're enrolled in the Academy and you'll receive an email from me so you can pick the classes you'd like to take and join our Academy family. So we're an after-school program rooted in hip hop. So we have a bunch of classes that you may find interesting. You can go right to our website and go to our classes tab and you'll see some of them, from performing arts like hip hop theater, spoken word, hip hop dance, some of our business classes that are like a boss and walk it like I talk it, which would be more arts management and entrepreneur based. And then we also have things like our music classes, MCing and rapping and beat production and DJing. You can go to wblinc.org/academy to enroll.
What's going on, world? It's yours truly, Monty Mutafa, here for another episode number 8. That means we've been at this for 2 months with my good brother, Dr. Jason Nichols. What up, Jay?
What's happening? How you doing?
I'm chilling. Thought I'd just give you a little bit of personal screen time there for a second. What you been up to? We haven't talked in a week.
Same things. Excited about the new school year, engaging with students. Finally, most of us are maskless, so, you get to build better relationships while passing along COVID. No, I'm kidding. No, but it's been a great first week of school, so I'm excited about how that's going. And, writing and engaging in all that punditry that you hate so much.
Yeah. So Jason, for folks that aren't stalking Jason on Instagram, he posted a survey. It was like, what do you prefer more in your news? And I was like, I prefer people who don't share their opinions and just tell me facts. I felt like I know that I'm getting older because I got a birthday around the corner, but I'm definitely feeling like I really like C-SPAN more than anything else, even though it has a disproportionate number of elders who clearly have way too much time to be watching C-SPAN. But I just feel like the people that come on and the conversation is just more fruitful and interesting than just listening to whoever's pundit talk about what they think about the thing that I'm watching too. Especially because I feel like I'm waiting to hear the things that, like, I'm waiting to call BS. But I appreciate the fact that you're asking people what kind of media that they're interested in, especially as a person that creates media. I'm super excited about our guest today because I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but part of my story with this brother goes back, I want to say either 12 or 13 years to the creation of a hip hop chess tournament that we started at Words Beats like called Bum Rush the Boards. And as we were thinking about how to do it, I decided just to go on Google and see, like, is anybody else doing a hip hop chess tournament? And I found this really touching article by the Bishop of Hip Hop, Mr. Adisa Banjoko. And he was talking about his concerns particularly for Black youth around issues of kind of disenfranchisement or lack of access to opportunity that usually is in a Black-white paradigm. And in preparing to take his kids take his son to participate in a chess tournament, he was worried about, like, having white kids there who had access to more privilege and opportunity, like looking down or talking down or playing down to his son. And what he was surprised by was the fact that that's not who was there, that it was other people of color. And so he asked the question, like, if the people who are coming here as immigrants, first generation, second generation, are experiencing varying degrees of success, what becomes the excuse is too strong, but, like, what's the response of Black people about the state of our communities if other people are able to come and prosper and develop? And we can talk a little bit about that. But I love the article so much. I reached out to him and was like, yo, we're planning this inaugural chess tournament. Can we give out your article? He was like, you're not selling it, are you? And I was like, no, we're not selling it. We're giving it away. He's like, all right, because I just want to make sure if you selling it, you got to break me off with some bread. And I was like, nah, bro, we're giving it away. It's like elementary and middle school kids. And then And then what's crazy is, he's laughing off stage. But then what's crazy is like the next year, he finally did something he had been thinking about for a while, which was to create his own hip hop chess tournament. Founded something called the Hip Hop Chess Federation. Reached out to hip hop celebrities because we were both drawing for the same inspiration. But he was already the Bishop. I was just Mozzie, you know. So like the idea of creating a chess space that merged hip hop and chess, but then in his case, bringing in hip hop celebrities who are already a part of the chess community to varying degrees, took that to a whole nother level. We had a little bit of beef for like a couple of years because when he came out with his tournament, he was like, "This is the world's first," and I was like, "Bro, how you got the world's first when I told you we was doing ours last year?"
I'm being passive aggressive, Mozzie. You know?
But no, this is important. This is important because it took being invited to be a part of a festival called the Show and Prove Festival in California, where Adisa and I sat on a panel together, and he told his own story, and I understood more of who he was and why he was and how he operated, and it made me appreciate his hustle, made me appreciate his grind, made me appreciate the things that he's accomplished, and made me want to work with him. And so I've been really fortunate to be able to be in dialogue with him, to be able to witness his growth and development, witness things like curating gallery shows that were either hip hop centered or chess centered. So a lot of the conversations we've had up to this point have been with people who are kind of do a thing, like they run an after school program. Adisa did that with the Hip Hop Chess Federation. They are thought lead, they're organizers, right? Adisa's done that by bringing folks together, particularly in this moment around Stoicism and around Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So he's also a martial artist. He's a published author. He's got multiple books. So he's a thought leader. He's a blogger. He does all of it. Like Adisa's kind of every guest we've had up to this point, all in one person. And I'm super excited to have him here today. I'm super excited to call him my friend. And what's crazy is I didn't say this already, but you two are both, I think, the only two martial artists in my life. You practicing Krav Maga, Jason, and him practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And you are two of my favorite Muslims on the planet. So I'm super excited to have each of you here. Adisa.
Yo, thank you so much, man. You know what? I remember when me and you were still trying to get to know each other. And I remember standing in this parking lot talking with you, and you were not feeling me. And I just remember I was like, all right, man, I guess we'll have to figure it out. Like, salam. And then like you just hung up. And I was like, he just hung up on me, but like we didn't talk for years after that. And what was hilarious was every person I knew that knew you loved you. Everybody. No one said, yeah, he's actually hella shady and it's not good. No one said he's manipulating the game and it's all bad. Everyone was like, I don't get it. You guys should be cool. And so I knew that we were both super passionate at the same time, inspired by obviously similar things. You know what I mean? And we just had crossed signals. You know what I mean? And that was it. And what was hilarious was when I saw you at Show and Prove, everything was gold. Nothing, you know what I mean? It was almost like we had actually been friends the entire time. You know what I mean? And from that point, we have been great friends, and I appreciate you. You know what I mean? Like immensely. So,
I feel the same, brother. And I'm happy to have been a witness to all of the work you're doing, not only in the Bay, but now abroad in the UK. And so, you know, so Jason doesn't just have to be a witness of this conversation. Why don't we just start off by talking about what somebody wrote? I don't think you liked me at first either. I don't know if that's for you or that's for me.
I was gonna jump in there and actually say, trust me, for all of you, it's not you. It's all him. You know, as the person who's probably known Mozzie the longest, like it's just kind of the way he is. He might actually really like you. It's just, you know,
you just don't know it yet.
Yeah, just the way he is. I would also
no, hold up. Y'all ain't gonna throw me under the bus. Hold up, because I remember that story that he's talking about. it's that like at first, I'm not even gonna lie. At first, I was salty because I received the press release. It was like, this is the world's first, but my team was like, but couldn't this also be an opportunity? We could talk about doing a national hip hop chess day. And so I reached out and was
He
like,
was
yo,
thinking bigger than
you
me.
doing it on the West, we doing it on the East. Let's make it together.
He was
And
thinking bigger.
Adisa was like, we got, I mean, ours is fresher than yours, blood. We good.
I
And I
didn't
was
say
like, damn, son, for real.
I've been misquoted. I've been misquoted. But that was the vibe. It was the vibe.
But with all due respect, what you was doing was fresher than what we were doing. Because the truth is, no. And it's not to diminish us, but it's to say like that what we dreamed of doing, you did the first time, which was you got members of the Wu-Tang to come play. You got Cuba.
Yeah.
You got all of the hip hop celebrities who already talked about and played chess to come out and be a part of the community. And so it was like we had to like bow down to like an event that was. And I don't even mean that in a way this diminishing
No,
to
I
us, but
understand
it
what
is to say
you're saying. Yeah.
like what you created was amazing, bro, and it was inspiring even for us. And so I really appreciate it.
No, I mean mutually. Like I think that sometimes, especially in hip hop, you know, we have what my boy used to call the Highlander syndrome, right? Where there can only be one, right? And I think that comes from like the desire to be original in the space of hip hop, right? But at the end of the day, America needed you and me at the same time. America and hip hop people learned from both of us at the same time. And we learned from each other. You know what I mean? Like, I remember you guys put a mixtape out and it was dope. You guys had some, I mean, like, I was really impressed. You know what I'm saying? Like, by the video, by the fact that, you know, like, a big part of what I was doing was just trying to reframe the intelligence of Black men in North America. And I knew that with chess being the most perceived white and intellectual sport, that if they could see DJs and MCs and B-boys and B-girls and graph writers doing it, they would have to rethink who we are. Because it wasn't just our intelligence that was being attacked. It was the implication that we didn't even have the aspiration or ability to be great or want intelligence. So every time you did an event, it was good for hip hop and Black America. And that meant it was good for all of America. And so our events, I think, really helped each other, you know, truly, you know. And I think that's both of us understanding this down the line and me admitting my closed-mindedness at the time. You know, I think it actually led to the alliance and the friendship and the heart-centered support that we give each other today, you know?
I mean, I definitely appreciate that. And I also appreciate the idea that the steel sharpens steel, that like you doing what you did inspired us to want to do more. And so along those lines, let's talk about, because you got a picture of, you know, the Honorable Marcus Garvey behind you. Let's talk about when you think about leadership, because this is a show about leadership. It's called No New Leaders, double entendre, as in there are no new leaders, but get to know new leaders.
Right.
There's plenty of people who think about themselves as leaders. And so we want to acknowledge both of those things. So
Absolutely.
Let's talk about when you think about how your understanding of what leadership is, what shaped that? Who has shaped that? What experiences?
I mean, I'll be really honest. You know, I was lucky. I grew up with both parents, and my father was proactive. So the first leader I knew was my father. You know, he was kind of an interesting dude, and he is an interesting dude. But what I mean is, like, when I was young, he would like deliberately teach me about a thing, but then never come back to it. He'd be like, "Hey, come downstairs with me." I go downstairs. Put your hands up. That's boxing. This is a jab. This is a cross. All right. Hey, this is a computer. Look, you can do this. No, okay. You know, and so, but he would never come back to it. He kind of planted the seed and the rest was on you. That was his thing. And so he was the first leader that I had in my life. And I remember I was a Cub Scout in My dad didn't want me to do Cub Scouts in the neighborhood we grew up in because it was straight white, suburban, and highly racist. So he decided that he was going to take me to a Cub troop that there were black people, and that was in Hunters Point in San Francisco. And when we went to the first meeting, everybody was black, but there were no men. There were boys and black women. And so my father, being from the military, could not accept this. And he was like, yo, they're two old black women doing the knots, everything. They were doing it. And he was like, yo, I'll step in and help because you need black, because none of the boys in the thing none of them had fathers. None of them, which sometimes made them resent me. But it was a beautiful thing. So my father was the first leader that I knew. Growing up, the leaders that I knew were many, meaning like before it was a holiday, my parents took me out of school on Martin Luther King's birthday. And they wrote a letter and said, we're taking him out in honor of Dr. King before it was a holiday. But I didn't barbecue and kick it at the house and watch cartoons. I had to read Black history. Lots of it. Lots of different aspects about Black women, about Black men, about different periods of Black history. And so that now I see as like a crazy revolutionary act through the 70s and 80s. Until his birthday was an actual holiday, my parents did this. You know, my mother as well, right? Like teaching me how to read. It was really important to her that I knew how to read. And I knew how to read before I got into kindergarten. I could read on my own, and to pursue intellectual greatness was always a thing that all of the people in my family valued. So, you know, my father played Malcolm X records around the house. Back in the days, I'm dating myself, I'm 52, but like there's a thing they don't show anymore called Eyes on the Prize. This was an amazing documentary series that used to be on PBS. And my parents would make sure that we watched it. So I knew my history, my people, the people that stood up for our people and how important that was. So then as I got older, convert to Islam, come into Islam through Malcolm X, right? Then the paradigm has a huge shift where it's about Malcolm. It's about, like everybody from that time. I mean, Jesse Jackson to a lesser degree, you know, the NOI to a lesser degree, but no question they were so present at that time. And nobody was being as courageous as they were in debating rights around Black freedom. And it was around that time that I met a Black woman named Kilu Nyasha, who, may Allah bless her, she passed away. But she was one of the first women in the Black Panther Party. She actually sacrificed her body doing martial arts and was in a wheelchair when I met her. And she actually gave me my name. And you know, to see her in an electric wheelchair, protesting, handing out flyers, and all this other stuff blew my mind. I would sit at her house. I think it was on Pacific or Broadway near Chinatown, on the outskirts of Chinatown. And she would read handwritten letters from George Jackson, would play cassettes with Huey Newt on it. Like, you couldn't get this information anywhere else. You simply could not. And she would host these political science classes in her living room. And it would be like me, sometimes Del the Funky Homo Sapien, because I invited him out. Sometimes Money B, because Money B's dad was a Black Panther, Bobby McCall, right? He's still with us. God bless him. Like, he's one of the creators of the Commemorator, the Black Panther newspaper that came out in the early 90s, right? And that's where I got a lot of my first writing done. It was horrible writing, but it was writing nonetheless. And that was kind of the energy of the time. And so I don't think that I thought of myself as a leader or even aspiring to be a leader. I just saw myself as wanting to speak the truth of my age at that time. And so I did it. And then eventually people were like, oh, can you come speak at this class or that class? I think the first time I ever spoke in front of a class was probably at SF State or UC Berkeley or something. But, between that and my writing, a lot of things happened. And then people in some ways started looking to me as a leader. And that was weird, especially when you're young, And recognizing that, I started reading military strategy fanatically. I'm talking about The Art of War. I'm talking about The Art of Peace. I'm talking about the Book of Five Rings. I'm talking about Clausewitz, a Prussian military general. I'm talking about Machiavelli. I'm talking about Mao Zedong, not the communist writings, the military strategy writings. I'm talking about like real in-depth military history and strategy. And it informed me in my way into martial arts. So it all worked out.
So I wanted to ask you, as you were talking, I was really thinking about what goes on in Black communities, and I remember a little bit of the era that you're referring to. What do you think Black communities need now? And what kind of leadership do Black communities need now?
That is a powerful question. And I really think about this more often than it will appear to as I try to answer. I remember going to see Cornel West speak, and he spoke at the Henry J. Kaiser, and he was talking about his time in the Panthers, and that one of the things that troubled him when he was a Panther was that when he would play Aretha Franklin gospel records, they would always take the record off. And they would say, religion is the opiate of the masses and this and that. And he said, but it was hard for him to deny the relevance of the Black church in the Black struggle. He said, look, the bottom line is most of the first books Black people read was the Bible in church. Most of the Black voter registration happened in the church, right? And so all of this stuff, and he was like, we can't deny that even if we don't like religion or whatever. And he talked deeper in part about what the Black church used to do for the Black community, right? How a lot of your job training, voters, all this stuff came out of the church. And when you looked, even then, this was 2007, even then the Black church was like a ghost town, at least in the Bay, most cities, right? And if we're being fair, I'm Muslim, right? I don't see a lot of Black kids in the masjid. I don't, right? And so I think that what we need to do is that our religious institutions need to invest in the children where they are. Like I was speaking recently, I did a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tour around the United Kingdom. And I also did some conversations with Muslim youth because they have a lot of violence out there with blades. People be getting stabbed all the time out there. It's wild. And there's still drug problems, even with young Muslims and drug dealing and whatnot, right? And so, one of the things that I spoke to one of the imams about after one of my conversations is I said, I know you don't like the idea of the kids being on their phone all the time. And I know you don't like the idea of them using technology, but it might be worth considering using the masjid as a foundation for coding classes, using the masjid as a foundation for figuring out what technological things can you have a hand in teaching the children, because you need to use the space in a way that they need it. And so I think that's what we have to do. I think Black leadership is in crisis because there's a gap between the old generation and the new. And I saw a lot of that, or felt I started to observe a lot of that right around the time Ferguson happened, where I was in the city of St. Louis working with the World Chess Hall of Fame, but I wasn't in Ferguson when stuff was happening because, frankly, I had warrants, bro. I wasn't trying to be around Ferguson because they was trying to snatch fools and ship them out. So dudes was like, yo, come through to Ferguson. I was like, nah, son. Because as soon as, yo, you out of one of these tough niggers from Oakland, huh? We out of here. Like, I was like, nah, I got warrants. But what I'm saying is, I remember, I think it was Jesse Jackson he went to Ferguson and they booed him. The young people were like, get out of here. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh. Now I could tell you some stories about old Uncle Jesse of my own experience, but that moment told me that the paradigm had actually shifted. This was the beginning of what became known as like the Black Lives Matter era and stuff like that, you know, around the murder of Michael Brown. And it was crazy. And I knew that the paradigm had shifted then. I think that what we have is an older generation that didn't raise the young people who are rebelling now. They're not in control of them, and they're afraid of them. They're afraid of the youth. And this is a problem because they shouldn't be, but they are. And so now I think we have this problem where young people are making their own way, even in a, and I don't want to sound inflammatory, but I think that we're even looking at a post Black Lives Matter era, as like every time you turn on the TV, you're seeing that some of their leadership is under question. What happened with this money? What happened with that? Whatever. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But I'll tell you what is going to happen. New young Black people are going to start new things. They're not going to wait. Okay, y'all figure out who spent the money. However, we fixing to do this, right? And so we need to find a way to bridge the gap and use the spaces that we have to go to cultivate the kids in what they need, where they are now, not based off what we did in 73.
You know, it's funny listening to you talk about kind of the shift with someone like a Jesse Jackson. There was this video I found on Instagram the other day featuring a woman by the name of Julia Hare, Dr. Julia Hare, and she was talking about the idea. It was a talk she was giving at Tavis Smiley's State of Black America some years back. And she said, don't ever confuse leading Blacks with Black leaders. And this idea of like this kind of selected group. So it was like, so I forwarded to Jason, was like, this sounds like No New Leaders, doesn't it?
No.
But her point was like this idea, who chooses to follow versus who's put in a place to be spokesperson.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you really think about the history of kind of Black leadership in America, particularly in the television age. There are people who played both roles. People who were like part of the beef between Malcolm and Martin is about Martin being chosen by the white establishment as the spokesperson.
Yeah.
But he also had a Black community that was following him. It's not as if he was plucked from obscurity and just put out on stage. So he, for all intents and purposes, well, I don't know why Jason's crunching up his face. For all intents and purposes, he would have been a leading Black, but a true Black leader. Or maybe he was a leading Black in the beginning of his media career,
and then they hijacked.
But over time, people sought him out. It wasn't just because the media was lifting him up. It was because they saw his ability to galvanize people and resources, information, and media to be able to put a light on what it is that people were doing. And so I wonder, as you kind of think about, you brought up, the idea of being in a post Black Lives Matter world. I actually got a chance to go to an interview last week with one of the creators of the Black Lives Matter hashtag, interviewing Angela Davis. And Angela Davis hit me to something I had never really thought about, because she started asking the crowd like about people who've run things in the past. She was like, how many people in the room have heard of these people? And like almost nobody's hands went up. And she was like, well, there's two reasons. So one, because some of the people I'm talking to you about are communist, and so they never got any kind of media play. But two, because they weren't seeking to be leaders, that they recognized they were part of a movement, a continuum of leadership over time, a movement towards freedom and liberation and justice. And I witnessed this interview in the same week, where I witnessed a friend of mine and Jason's have Mumia Abu-Jamal call in to his show to talk about how much he appreciates the work that's still happening on the radical Black left to promote those same ideals of freedom, justice, and equality. But he also brought in love and the importance of love in our movements. And so I wonder whose work that's happening right now would you say is either important or inspiring, worth lifting up as something? And it doesn't have to be like, this person has this organization. It could just be a person that you're aware of on social media, or someone that you met in the UK. Just who are today's leaders that will eventually be on someone's wall or eventually be on someone's timeline, that you're witnessing the work that they're doing. And it could be in a jiu-jitsu space, it could be in an education space, whatever. However you're thinking about leadership, who are some people that are alive today whose work and effort inspire you?
Okay, so this is in random order, and I'll probably forget people, but I'm just gonna say who's coming to my mind right now. There's a guy named Tyson Amir. He wrote a book called Black Boy Poems. He does amazing work in the schools with kids all around Oakland and in San Jose. It's unbelievable work. It's loving work. It is consistent. It is for all kinds of children from all kinds of backgrounds. And I've heard parents get on and tell the teachers and the mentors like how important their work has been. So Tyson Amir, unquestionably. Black Boy Poems, great book, got to get it and work with him wherever you are in the world. You need to be working with him. Two, I will say my guys from Rhythmic Mind. These are two white dudes who are MCs, but they started figuring out stuff in psychology about the way that the brain worked when people were doing elements of hip hop. And one of them was that I don't think they were a part of the study, but they used the study in a lot of their work. And that basically said that when a human being is freestyling, the part of the brain that is the self-critic, it turns off. It actually turns off when people are freestyling. So what they did is they did all this like trauma-based circle work in juvenile halls, right? To help kids process the violence they've endured, parental neglect, whatever, and close. Like there would be like I worked with them directly. I sat with them in the Oakland Juvie and seen them have kids explain their life. How did they get into jail? What kind of relationships they have with their parents? I mean, unbelievable stuff, right? Rhythmic Mind, unbelievable. Rap Force Academy, Rahman Jamal. This guy is amazing. Rap Force Academy. This dude is a martial artist, been a martial artist, probably even before he was in hip hop. Freestyle, battle rapper, ridiculous. Teacher of how to rhyme to children in the schools. This guy's amazing, right? And so he's been a part of Hip Hop Congress forever, and he runs a really tight, loving, strategic ship, man. He's amazing. So I would say them off top. And then there's a guy here in the Bay, Damian Posey. He's known as Uncle Damien. Uncle Damien Speaks. Like when the guns go off or they're fixing to go off, he's the one that walks into the neighborhoods and talks people down. I mean, it's unbelievable work that he does, raising money for people's funerals, like all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Also United Players, Rudy, ridiculous, man. Like the stuff that he's been doing, for so many years. I think they both got the keys to the city recently, you know what I mean, in San Francisco. But I think, there's still, and I know there's a lot of tug of war around like the role of artists as leaders. Like, artists aren't necessarily leaders and leaders likewise aren't necessarily artists. But I think that, even though my brother Zumbi, died under very suspicious circumstances at Alta Bates Hospital, and everybody should still be looking into it and seek answers and justice for him and his family. His work is important still. I think that there's a lot of beautiful folks out here doing a lot of beautiful work. I like the work that Sarok is doing. Like, she's just amazing. I think she's got a tour called the Mother Tongue Tour. Like, just the existence of the tour is many on its own. But like, there's your girl Dynasty out there. And then, I'm blanking on this other woman who's a dope MC out of LA. I'll remember. But like, Ya Creates, crazy. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of women doing beautiful things out in the mix as well. And then Dr. Dayanara Thompson, she does a lot of work teaching Black and Latino youth about health and fitness and making sure that they get proper health care and that they're getting the right nutrition. She's done a lot of her work in the Bay. Right now she's in LA, and I'm just, I can't be more proud. I know, like, from our generation, sometimes people from our generation can look down below and be like, oh, they're not doing it, they don't know the stuff, whatever. I have to say, I'm impressed and I'm not worried.
So let me ask, like, particularly with your travels to the UK, one of the things that I've been hearing about a lot recently with Black and Muslim youth in the UK is that some of the young men are being led astray, and you have people online who are really influential there. I'll name names, people like Andrew Tate and others. Did you find that there's a dearth of leadership in the UK? And I know we talked a little bit about what could be done here in the United States.
Right.
Is it the same thing in the UK, or are they facing something different and it need a different kind of leadership?
This is such a deep thing because, I have never met Andrew Tate, but I was very cool with his father, Emory Tate, one of the greatest Black chess minds to ever walk around North America.
Yeah.
None of you understand that.
Yeah.
Andrew Tate's father is one of the smartest Black men who ever lived in recent history.
Absolutely.
I'm not kidding.
That's a fact.
I'm not kidding. He's unbelievable. In fact, there's a book by Daim Shabazz called triple exclamation point. And it's about Emory Tate. And everybody who's Black that loves chess, if you ain't copping that book, you slipping. I'm going to say that. Daim Shabazz, The Chess Drum. Look into it and go cop that. Amazon for real. Now, I'm still understanding everything that's going on in the UK. I've been going back and forth for about 3 years. When I'm in London, I'm in the south of London. The area is called like Tooting Broadway. It's mostly Muslim. It's a great area. But you can still get cut out there in the streets, man. Like, it's, poverty is still a real thing, right? White supremacy as a system, right, is still a thing. Failing schools, broken families, right? Those things are going to deliver the same kind of outcome in most cities, right? It's just going to be the variance. Is it this drug over here or that drug over there? Is it, you know what I mean? Guns or knives. But, when kids don't have love and education, they're going to turn to violence. This is, and they don't have money. This is a known thing. I think that as far as Andrew Tate's influence in the UK and in Europe, I think it's pretty big, to be fair. I think that, man, there are some things that he said that I think is probably problematic and we should look into. But at the same time, I think that what we have in America and Europe and the world is a transitional, just like we have this initial leadership thing that I was talking about is transitional. I think the world, there used to be a book by a rogue scientist called Immanuel Velikovsky, and his book was called Earth in Upheaval. This is what we have right now. He wrote another book called Worlds in Collision. This is what we have right now, where I believe authentically some of our current systems are starting to fall apart, or at least are about to change in their core nature from the way that they used to be. And I think that voices like Andrew Tate's, voices like those that we initially saw from BLM and the ones that are coming in the aftermath of BLM are going to be rising up because there is a vacuum of information. The internet is a great place to get knowledge, but it can also lead people astray. And the algorithm can lead people kind of like chasing their own tail in terms of what the truth is. And this makes it harder for everybody to know what's an actual fact, especially as like the deep fake videos and all this stuff like become more and more common. And so I think that to answer your question, it's the same problem with different nuances. I know a really good guy named Eamon Madden. He runs Aeon Jiu-Jitsu in Streatham, and he does a lot of work trying to get kids to, one, do more jiu-jitsu, but two, he does a lot of work around like the knife violence, not just the act, but the psychological impact on the youth and the neighborhoods. He does really good work, man. So, I think that you know, he is a leader of right now who in the UK who deserves props. And in Leeds, I would say it's a guy named Mike Bates, right? He's a guy that runs Gracie Baja and Gracie Baja in Leeds, GBRL, and they have a whole youth thing that they're doing where they're looking for at-risk kids to give jiu-jitsu to show them support, help them get their homework done. You know what I mean? These kinds of things are needed, man. These kinds of things are needed. But I think that what we have is basically a huge vacuum. Everybody's kind of walking towards to see who's going to fill it up. And when it all shakes out, we'll figure it out. But it's gonna be an interesting ride.
You know, it's interesting. I feel like on some levels, because I kind of know, what you've shared with me one-on-one and what you've kind of shared with the public about your own journey. And I feel like on some levels, we're not Jason's last question, but my questions have mostly centered around kind of your early classic albums. And you like, but bro, I got new work. Can we talk about the new work?
No, I got that new remix with Dre. Right?
So a lot of your content right now is about two things: Stoicism and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
So I wonder how you think each of these things could be or should be connected to our ideas of leadership. Because the UK tour that you just wrapped up, I really appreciated you saying to a room full of Muslims that the idea of jiu-jitsu is sunnah, but this idea of trying to connect traditions that people already value to something that could also be of value. That's part of a traditional lineage. So tell us a little bit about Stoicism and about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and really kind of your journey as a teacher, because like, I think it's funny that part of your story is, you know, your experience in high school and what kept you there, but then like basically dedicating the rest of your life to being a teacher.
Yeah, well, you know, it's really deep because I'll tell you what the cliff notes are, man. I went to suburban schools that were hella racist. And I also went to suburban schools. I'll name them, right? Portola Elementary in San Bruno, super racist experiences regularly. And it was just the culture at the time. It wasn't even anything that anybody was really trying to change. Even when they had a black principal, right? They had a race fight at my junior high. I went to Pacific Heights Junior High, right? In Pacifica, California. And I went to Oceana High School. Which was open enrollment. So we had a lot of hood kids mixed in with suburban kids, and that made it very interesting. But basically, I've never considered myself, I've considered myself a victim of the American education system. And my dedication to my own education was an independent route because I just learned differently. It wasn't that I couldn't learn, it's that I learned differently, and the school didn't have a place for a mind like mine. Now America is a lot more diverse. There's, you know, different kinds of schools. There's homeschooling, there's charter schools, private schools. There's all these different kinds of schools, right? And ways to learn. And it wasn't that way in the 70s and 80s. And so I've always considered myself a victim of the American education system. And part of my rebellion in learning is and was to help anybody understand that they can learn. That's it. So, you know, when most people, yeah, I'm a teacher, right? I've taught elementary level, I've taught junior high, I've taught high school, I've taught college. I used to teach at Zaytuna College, chess and jiu-jitsu, okay? And I've lectured at lots of universities. I just lectured on Stoic philosophy this year at Stanford, okay, to the Graduate School of Philosophy, right? Shout out to Dr. Greg Watkins because he's my man. My point is that this whole thing about Stoicism and all of my real journey about chess, right? Because people would always say when I was doing Hip Hop Chess Federation, oh, what are you doing? What is the goal? What is the goal? And I would always say the goal is just for them to play. That's it. I was never looking to make chess masters. And this bothered the mainstream white-run chess institutions, right? Because they wanted to be able to say, oh, he's got this kid with this rating. He's got this other girl with this rating. No, don't worry about the ratings of my kids. They're graduating. Don't worry about the ratings of my kids. They're going to college. Don't worry about the ratings of my kids. They've stopped banging. That was my goal. And these are things that white mainstream chess people don't even care about because they can't even see our children in their space unless they consider them gifted. This is the reality of mainstream white chess in America. My goal was to help Black children and poor children, Latino children, whoever I could find, discover their own intelligence and know that they had the power to cultivate it. And I didn't have a goal of leadership because I wanted them to be able to know that they could lead themselves, that they didn't even need me. Oh, Deesh, you taught me chess. Whatever, I suck at this game. Oh, Deesh, you teach me some jiu-jitsu moves. Whatever, bro. I'm not like a world champion. I just do it. It's to help people understand that they can and should be their own leaders. So how does this pivot to Stoicism? Stoicism, right, is a tough sell in today's world because the voices of old white men in ivory statues is pretty played out by most standards. But what we have to be careful of as we deliberately and intelligently dismantle white supremacy as a system in America and around the world is that we don't want to be an animal farm and devour the good things from white systems and philosophies just because they're white, because then we've become, right? That's how the animal farm starts. So Stoicism helps the individual understand how much they are much more in control of their opportunities and understandings than they believe, and that they have the ability to endure much more than they believe they can endure and still overcome different obstacles. So this is kind of like how my entry point to Stoicism really began. And so the reason why I'm pushing Stoicism and meditation is because meditation will quiet the mind, Stoicism will enrich the mind, and then the individual, right, especially if they're playing chess, can strategize their way out towards whatever they want to do with their life, and know that they actually don't need I don't want to say that they don't need anybody, because community always matters. But if they don't have community, I want them to know that within themselves, their own mind, their own body, their own heart, they can actually achieve incredible things.
Hey, Jay, before you jump in, Jay, but what about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? So like you've talked about three things: chess,
right,
meditation, stoicism are all about the mind. So what is it
right.
about training their body that's also important?
Because grappling and jiu-jitsu itself, one is, I think that the reason why there's so much violence, like knife violence and gun violence, is because people forgot how to just put their hands up, take a shot to the jaw, and go home, right? That's how it used to be. That's what the movie Friday is about. People laugh about Friday because it is a funny movie. But if you remember what I think John Witherspoon was talking about, he was saying, man, you know what I'm saying? You win some or you lose some, but you live to fight another day. That's really how it used to be. And when we talk about these ideas, I often have said, you know, chess is jiu-jitsu for the mind, and jiu-jitsu is chess for the body. It is a strategic way to win over brute force, over, you know what I mean, strength and explosiveness. That's what jiu-jitsu allows you to do. And so you don't really know how resilient you are until an opponent who's definitely trying to like get your arm or squeeze the life out of you for real, and you're finding a way to stop that. You're finding a way to negate that. When you have that power, what can happen to you at school that you can't overcome? What can your boss say to you in front of your coworkers that will ever really rattle you? Nothing, nothing. And so this is why, right, we, especially Black men in North America, have lost the ability to embrace our warrior minds, because it was beaten out of us during the transatlantic slave trade, right, and our sojourn as prisoners of war in North America. And so because of that, we have to re-engage that part of ourselves. I don't know if it's true, but I saw a speech once and it said, I don't know if this is true. Somebody, one of you guys is wiser than me. You can find out. Somebody tell me. I saw a speech where it was said that one of the things about the HBCUs getting their proper charter to be established, one of the terms was that they had to promise that they would never teach military strategy. Is that a fact? And if it is a fact, why would that be a fact? We need to think about these things.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I know, to be honest, I've been thinking a lot lately about, because I've been, like I said, I've been listening to a lot of C-SPAN. I'm a we're gonna jump to you, Jay. But I've been listening to a lot of C-SPAN and listening to like the hearings where people in the military come and make requests for things 5 years from now, and like thinking about how this system really is invested in militarism in a way that we need to be invested in peace.
Right. Yeah.
Like this long-term strategy, methods, etc. But I also, well, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think there's so much that you said that's really interesting and impactful. I think a lot of it too, when you talked about putting your hands up, I think something like, I even think of my own experience. I was never afraid to fight.
Right.
But I was afraid of the embarrassment of losing. And I think that's something that we need to teach people, is not only how to win, but how to lose.
With the equal dignity, right? And that's the thing, right? What do you do at the end of the checkmate? You shake hands. What do you do at the beginning? You shake hands. In jiu-jitsu, you fist bump. When it's over, you fist bump. It don't matter whether I choked you, you choked me, or with some kind of stalemate. You know what I mean? You acknowledge the other person, right? But if we don't bring that back into our culture as a part of our mental culture on the boards, part of our physical culture with each other, then we're always going to struggle, and our children in general, but our boys specifically, will continue to mangle each other out of the fear of losing what every other generation of Black men before us knew was okay.
Right. And so, one of the things that, as we're talking about leadership and I think about martial arts, it's funny, like, I'm going to, long story short, I did a TV appearance, and we were talking about, I think it was about transgender identity. And I basically, my argument was, there were all these conservative people who were like, I'm not calling someone who was born male, Mrs. or
Right.
And my thing was, I'll call people what they want to be called, And so one person tried to throw it back at me and said, well, would you call someone master? And my thing is, I'm thinking with the martial arts mind.
Exactly.
They've earned it. That's a title.
Right.
If you've earned the title master, then then sure, that's not a name. If you're saying it to offend me, then of course I'm not call you that.
Yeah, exactly.
But my question is, what has martial arts taught you about how to lead and how to follow? Because I think that's a big part of being a martial arts student. And also, if you've ever taught a martial arts class, it's something that, you have to learn how to lead and how to follow. And I'm wondering if that's, what's been your experience with that?
So I teach at Ralph Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in San Jose and Santa Clara. Now, if you look up, you can see the shirt there, Ralph, right? I'm doing this backwards. Ralph Gracie. Ralph, you say the R like an H. Ralph has a reputation as being one of the toughest, rowdiest, most aggressive family members in the lineage. And one of his top students, Kurt Osiander, was actually featured on Anthony Bourdain's show, where he goes to Ralph Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in San Francisco, and he says, this is the toughest warm-up that most people will ever experience in any jiu-jitsu school. And it's soul-breaking. Understand me? It's not casually, it's soul-breaking. Even the warm-up that I do now is not what it used to be by design, okay? What I learned training under Ralph, training under the guy who gave me my black belt, one of Ralph's top students, Alan Gumby Marcus, was that you do what you were told to do and you practice what you were told to practice until you get it right. And your instructor will stay there and help you do everything he thinks or she thinks or they think possible until you have it right. And they tell you that you can learn it, that it's not magic. Anything you can't do in a fight, you just haven't practiced enough. It's not that you can't do it. And so, long story short, I start as a white belt, taking me a long time. I end up getting my black belt from Gumby. And then I start teaching at Ralph Gracie's San Jose and Santa Clara. And, what you learn about leadership is patience. I have one of my favorite students is actually a 61-year-old Chinese man. and his name is Ray Fong. He's already a very gifted karateka. He does Enshin, Enshin, Enshin karate. Go look up Enshin karate highlights. For all you people that think it's all about like Karate Kid stuff, people get put on stretchers for real. But the point is, when I'm with him, he's 61 and his wife is 50 something, and she's on the ground doing the same moves. He's on the ground doing the same moves. And sometimes though, he gets frustrated with a move, and he'll be mad at himself that he's not doing it right. And I'll just be like, relax, breathe, you can do it, right? Sometimes leadership is just giving the student space to be wrong without making them feel bad. You know, I was working with a kid trying to show them how to stand up. Like if you're standing up over someone who's sitting down, how does the person who's sitting down, how do they stand up safely without risking getting punched or kicked in the face? It's a move called standing up in base, B-A-S-E. So I was teaching these kids standing up in base, but you had to have this initial sit a particular way so you could enter standing in the base. And this one particular kid, he was not listening to me. And so I was like, can you just sit like I'm sitting? And it was funny because he was looking at me and he's trying to be like, okay, his right. I was like, where's my left hand? But he's looking at it in reverse and he's trying to reverse engineer and he just keeps botching it. But rather than scolding him, rather than tell him he was messing up, I would just say, again, where's my hand? Where's my right leg? Where's my left leg? And then when he got it, exactly. I knew you could do it. A lot of times leadership is just giving your students the space to get it wrong without pressure so that they can figure it out for themselves and move forward, because that's where they get the belief of what they're capable of, right? It's not like, you know, sweep the leg. That's not really, that's not really going to work. But sometimes, you know what I'm saying, when it's on, you just got to do what you got to do.
You know, I think that because we're almost at the end of the show, like, I'm sorry I spent so much time at the beginning giving backstory.
It was funny though.
But I thought it was important to share just because one of the things that at least I've learned in this journey is that there really are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. There really are opportunities for growth and investment if you're open to it. So I think with that, I wonder as we get ready to wrap up, and I don't want you to be humble in this answer. What are the qualities of leadership that you feel like you embody that are worth other people also striving to embody? The qualities of leadership that you embody that you feel like other people should also be striving to embody.
It's a hard thing to answer because, you know, I think I'm always like undercutting myself. So I think it's cool that you told me not to, because I'm going to want to. But I think the biggest part is just showing up. You know what I mean? There's a level of consistency to be a good teacher or to be a good student that you need to have. You know, when I think about my journey in jiu-jitsu specifically, there were times when I wasn't doing that well, but I wasn't also training that hard. I wasn't consistently studying, and that's important, right? So just being there. I think the other thing is I've always been a voracious reader, and I'm unafraid of books. I think in one of the ways in which social media and whatnot has harmed America in general, but Black America specifically, right, is that we have become allergic to reading, and it's the only way out. And because video has become so popular, young people don't have the stamina to read for 30 minutes. We have to impress the importance of picking up a book and having our kids actually read physical books. There's a wisdom in that, okay, that you can't hopscotch around. You got to do it. So I read. I also think that, you know, I am a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I try to keep what Stick and in his song white belt, right, to keep the white belt mentality. I have students that are below me, blue belts. That's the first belt you get after white is blue, and then purple, brown, black. I got blues, purples, brown belts, and even white belts who show me things that I don't know. And I don't try to act like I knew it just because I'm the black belt. You know, jiu-jitsu is a living art. It morphs. And so people be like, oh, they used to do the grip like this. Now it's here instead of there. Or I'm seeing people attack from this angle instead of that angle. And I have to be open to that, right? So you have to be open and willing to continue to learn and never be content with what you know. Because like you said, Mazi, it's always changing, right? It's always changing.
So I guess, you know, as we're coming to a close here, I'm wondering, I guess I want to know what your plans are in terms of leadership, and also, do you consider yourself to be a leader? You gave a long list of leaders in your community, but I'm wondering, do you consider yourself to be a leader, and what are the future plans for your leadership?
That's a tough question. It's so hard, man, because I think because I teach jiu-jitsu, I am a leader, right? I have to be a leader of my students. I have to be a leader of the team. When I'm traveling, right, I have to be a leader of, you know, how am I going to deliver the understanding of these techniques? So from that thing, I think yes. I think intellectually and whatnot, I probably could be considered a leader. I'm not sure. I don't do it to outwit anybody. I don't do anything I do to outwit anybody or be problematic. I'm just kind of expressing myself, and I think sometimes I am problematic unintentionally. But you know, my research and my work is always done with the best intentions, and I'm hoping, you know, for the best results. But as far as my leadership, I'm going to start a new chess organization called 64 Blocks, and it's going to be around chess, jiu-jitsu, and meditation. It's going to be around chess, jiu-jitsu, and meditation. Hip hop will always be the soundtrack to everything that we do, but I'm really looking for that mind and body balance. You know what I mean? And I think that meditation is the bridge between the mental aspect of the chess and the physical aspect of the jiu-jitsu. So look for that in the next couple months to start rolling out, you know, and I'm excited about that.
No doubt. Brothers, I want to thank both of you for being here today. Each of you are amazing teachers. I'm sure the folks that have been watching have enjoyed both of your questions and your comments. And so I want to thank you, Adisa, for joining Jason and I.
Man, I appreciate you both so much. Yeah.
And Jay, it's been real per usual. You got great questions and great answers. Looking forward to seeing you again 1 week from today for episode number 9.
Most definitely. Let's do it.
And I'm Maji Mutafa. This is No New Leaders. That was Adisa Banjoko. That was Dr. Jason Nichols. Looking forward to seeing you all again. And if you have a child in your life, feel free to encourage them to enroll in the Words Beats Life Academy. We've got amazing classes.
God bless the cipher, the rotation. God bless the beatboxer's lungs, amen for breath control, the smiles that pry open faces when flow goes unbroken, and the smoke. To stories you can see, to coming in on the one.